Cuts for the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service by the government can only lead to severe consequences. Stephen Boyd is in the studio with me today to tell us more. So Stephen, thank you very much for joining me in the studio today.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So can you tell us about the motion that was introduced into the Northern Ireland Assembly recently?
Yep, the motion on Monday passed was to do with a lot of lobbying the Fire Brigade Union has been doing with regards to concerns of cuts that we've had in year this year and the proposed cuts that are going to be coming in 2016-2017.
And what are the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service current statutory responsibilities?
Well, from an operational point of view, obviously we have firefighting, rescuing people from fires, rescue people from road traffic collisions. We deal with all sorts of other incidents such as flooding, which is a statutory responsibility for. And then on the prevention side, we've obviously a responsibility for keeping buildings safe and getting fire safety message out to homes and members of the public.
Can you tell us about the budget reductions that have been made over the past few years and what way has that affected the service?
Well, over the last 5 years, we've seen a 14% reduction in our budget. We used to have a budget of over £81 million. It's now just under £70 million. A lot of that reduction has been due to the lack of recruitment, and particularly in the whole time. For example, we should have a whole time establishment of 917 across Northern Ireland. We're currently sitting at about 858. So we're already 60 under established, and that figure's growing basically on a monthly basis because there's no recruitment planned. Where we have seen problems in particular this year is with regards to jump crewing our aerial appliances. We currently have 3 aerial appliances crewed by whole-time personnel in Knock Fire Station in East Belfast, Springfield Road Fire Station, West Belfast, and a Northland Road Fire Station, which is in Derry, Londonderry. And because of budget cuts and trying to save money in this financial year, we're having to jump crew those appliances, and they used to be primary crewed, which means there's a delay in the turnout. And the public get it when we say that any delay in response times has an impact on public safety and potentially firefighter safety.
What impact will these further cuts have if they're put into place?
Well, the only way to meet the further cuts that are being proposed by the department is reduction in headcount. The fire service budget, 80% of it goes on wages. So the only way to do that is by no recruitment in the whole time in particular and reducing the headcount. And they're already talking about a headcount of less than 800 by March next year, by the end of the new financial year.
And are the budget cuts placing not only the firefighters but the community at risk?
We believe that's really having an impact with regards to the jump crewing of the aerial appliances. We know that if fire appliances are put off the run, we're going to see a reduction in response times. Currently there's a proposal out to public consultation to reduce 7 full-time fire stations, but reduce the whole-time fire cover from 7 days a week down to 5 days a week. Now currently we provide 84 hours fire cover in them whole-time fire cover in them stations per week, and that's to be reduced to 50 hours, which is over a 40% reduction in fire cover, whole-time fire cover in them towns.
Have the numbers of rescues in dwelling fires and road traffic collisions increased or decreased over the past 5 years?
Well, the department have a great play on the Department of Dwelling Fires that the Fire Service has been attending, and that they have reduced over the last 5-6 years. But what they're failing to bring to the attention of the public is that in the 5 years leading up to 2014, we had the highest number of injuries in 2014 than we had in the previous 5 years. We had the highest number of rescues from dwelling fires, the highest in 5 years. And the same with road traffic collisions, they're without doubt on an increase. And again, we're rescuing more people from RTCs, and we're attending more RTCs.
And what are your concerns regarding the deterioration in attendance over the past 5 years?
Well, the big problem that we have at the moment in particular is in a lot of our retain stations. For example, I could tell you that today 19 retain stations across Northern Ireland, we're having difficulty in either getting any machine out or getting the second machine out. It's the second fire appliance. So obviously we have a speed of response to protect the public and to maintain firefighter safety. So if there's a dwelling fire, we need 2 fire appliances to be attending that incident as quick as possible. So already there's a big impact on the fact that we don't have enough retained firefighters in our communities to mobilise the appliances. And then again, of course, I said about the potential of the reduction of full-time headcount, which will, without qualification, have an impact on public safety, should it continue.
So do you think this is why we need more local firefighters in our communities?
Certainly across the board, whole-time and retained, I believe we need to maintain the 917 whole-time establishment. Unfortunately, we already have a postcode lottery The fire service have recognised that 4 towns in Northern Ireland, Strabane, Dungannon, Enniskillen and Downpatrick, should have some form of whole-time fire cover. It doesn't, and the reason for that is because we don't have enough whole-time firefighters. And because of the cuts, what they're planning to do now is rob Peter to pay Paul. They're planning to downgrade the 7 what we call variable crewed fire stations and move personnel from them to these 4 towns across the province. So that's already having an impact. And of course, I understand that we're going to recruit some more retained firefighters part-time across Northern Ireland, but it won't be enough initially to cover the shortfall that we currently see.
And what efficient ways and innovative ways of working have you developed to deal with the cuts?
Well, across the UK we've been looking at different initiatives, including the possibility of turning out to medical emergencies. So in other words, for example, if the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service are struggling with regards to getting an ambulance to an incident in a particular time, the potential is there to call the fire service. And if we're available and we're there quicker, or can be there quicker than the ambulance service, then we would mobilise to that. A perfect example is Greater Manchester, where already the ambulance service mobilises the fire service to cardiac arrests. So we are trained to deal with cardiac arrests, we have equipment on the fire appliances, we have the training, so we could be responding to something like that to assist the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service. That in itself would make a fundamental service to the health budget, because we'd be treating people quicker than we currently are in some instances, and them savings aren't being realised. They're not being looked at by the department that we can save money here. They just look at a head budget and try to reduce that budget without seeing the bigger picture.
So what's next for a service after this motion? What happens next? Well,
we have to wait now. The motion basically asked the Minister for Health Public Services to go to the Executive to try and effectively protect the budget for the Northern Ireland Fire Service, to protect us as a frontline service, which is effectively what we are. So we wait and see whether the Minister will approach the Executive, and then we'll see what the decision the Executive takes. We've done a lot of political lobbying. We've met a lot of the political parties. We've done a presentation to the Ulster Unionist Party, who were kind enough to move the motion last week in the Assembly, amended by the SDLP, and we had over 70 firefighters present at Stormont last week, and we were delighted with the cross-party support from all parties that we got, and that the motion was actually carried unequivocally on the day.
And if you're receiving a lot of support, so why do you think that these budget cuts just keep coming to the Fire and Rescue Service?
The issue we have, because we're under the Department of Health, Social Services, which is the right place we believe to be, is the fact that we're classed as an arm's length body. So we're not protected under the same as maybe the ambulances, the nurses, the doctors. So we're an arm's length body, and there's a number of arm's length body under health, and they're all facing the same budgetary constraints. But our argument in the fire service is that we are a frontline service. We're there to save people's lives, protect people's lives, and therefore that should be some element of budget protection.
Well, Stephen, thank you very much for joining me in the studio today.
Pleasure. Thank you.